Hi.
Hey.
Hi everyone. My name is Zaire. I'm a freshman in college, and I'm so happy to be here today. I feel so honored. What would I like to talk about today? Well, I guess let's start off with like a random tangent. I am part of the LGBTQ community. I represent the G. And I'm still trying to figure out if I personally belong to the trans community or not, with the fact that I am gender fluid, but I always felt as though I couldn't call myself transgender, mainly because I I don't feel as though I have to not change my physical appearance, nor have I truly like experienced the things that most trans people tell me about. Mainly with I did suffer through gender dysmorphia for a short period of time, and I did went from saying, "Oh, I identify as a female," or I identify as a man, but I just like to wear girl clothes, and started doing my own research, and I found out I am gender fluid because I never felt as though I was non-binary with the fact that I didn't like being called a man or a woman. I felt comfortable being both because I myself I have like masculine qualities and feminine qualities, and I don't like the idea of being seen as those either or. And it was a long high school struggle because all this happened to me in high school because I didn't really come out as gay to the not to the world. I came out to the world, but like to the family. So it's like I was out, but I was also hidden. But I didn't come fully out until my eighth grade year. And then once I was out, as they say that once you're out, you can't really be put back inside the closet. So I'm like, hey, I'm out now. I was trying all the shit that I was sneaking about, trying to do under the low, out in the open now. So I first started with wearing female clothes because I never really liked the idea of masculinity, at least how it was portrayed in the past or how it was taught to me growing up. I didn't like how the idea I had to like hold doors open for a woman. I couldn't cry. I had to play sports. I had to be muscular. I had to be handsome. It's just all those type of stereotypical ideals that my parents and my family forced upon me made me hate the idea of just being a man in general. So I wanted to completely cut away from that. So I started wearing more tight jeans. I started wearing crop tops. I started wearing wigs. I started out with makeup. Low key, my makeup phase was crazy. Because every time I look back on those pictures, I'm like, I don't know what I was doing. But at the time, I know I was happy, and that what matters to me. As long as I was happy, good. But I'm better at my makeup now, and I look back, I'm like, hell the fuck no, no, no. I don't know what you did to your face in that mirror, but you should have stopped. And of course, I did like struggle with that. I because of me finally completely abandoning the masculinity and everything I had to deal with it. I did lose a couple of friends in the process of that, and I was harassed because of it. But like I was no, I wasn't strong. I was strong. I was good at hiding my pain, but I wasn't really strong. Of course, like when I came in the house, I cried. But out in public, I had to be strong and stoic because we can't show our enemies our weaknesses because then they'll just keep going harder. But even if you be stoic, they still go harder on you as well, which is like where to find the balance of being more emotional and being stern and tough. So that was an issue. But through that, I did way more friends with women rather than men, which I am so happy for because women treat the other women, at least when they're close with them, with way more kindness than they would treat than men treat men, and I love that. So I because I use women as an aspect for me to connect with my emotional well being and my mental well being. So that was fun. A couple like we flash forward a little bit. We a little bit more. We're into COVID now, and then everything got fucked up. COVID was a terrible time for me because now the outlet I had to like express all that femininity and figure things out in high school was completely taken away from me for 2 years. And I was stuck inside the house with my thoughts and with a family who really didn't like the idea of me not conforming to the identity of a man and masculinity. And that was suffocating. That was torture. The best way to put it. I think my greatest escape during that time was sleep. Yeah, I sleep. I think I slept 16 hours a day just to like hide. And because of me constantly sleeping, I didn't really eat. So I low key developed a eating disorder where I mean I today I'm it's way better. I'm able to eat 2 meals a day today. Today, and I'm very proud of that. But normally, even if I'm hungry, I would say I'll just sleep it off. I'll sleep it off. Or is the hunger worth me leaving my room? Is it truly? And normally, I just bring like a couple bottles of water, and I just survive for water. So that was terrible. And then when I came back to the doctor, my doctor had literally sat there and told me, "How old are you? How old are you?" And I was 18, going on 19, and I was under 120 pounds for a 5'7". I was 5'7", and I was 19, and I was under 120 pounds. I don't remember the exact date. I just know I was under 120. And my doctor looked at me like, "Are you alright?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." Because like I don't really try when people ask, "Are you alright?" Especially if they're strangers, even if they are your medical doctors and they're here to help you. If you don't have that one-on-one connection, you just like, "Oh, I'm fine." Like when people ask you, "Are you having a good day?" We all just we go to the go-to response of, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm alright. It's a good day." Because that what like society says. We can't just spill our problems to strangers. Even if you are having a bad day, people will sit there and tell you, "Oh, I'm fine, I'm alright." And I experienced this myself in the future and current day time when I see people are like feeling terrible. Like I clearly see you feeling terrible. I see tears coming down your face and I ask you, "Are you alright?" And you lie to me and you say you fine. I I get stuck in a predicament of I see you're lying. But if you're telling me you're fine, then that clearly you telling me that you don't want my help, in which case I don't know what to do, and I just like, all right, and I accept that. Which is what my doctor did. He accepted it, and we moved on. Then we come out of COVID. At that point, I'm back. Everything's completely different. Everything's completely weird. I'm still like, fuck. When, fuck. Like, what do I want to be? Who am I? Um, yeah. Then we then I guess I had received terrible news during the time that was like life changing, but I don't really want to put that out there. The details of yet. I'm not really comfortable with saying that yet. But that news was a complete life changer for me, both in a good way and bad way. A good way because it was at that point I said, "Fuck all this, fuck what people think. I am who I am," and I started living for me. I also found Hunter's World, which is a nonprofit that focuses on like a teen mentoring program, teens that mentor other teens. So I really love that. I also started visiting Youth Connect more. I started surrounding myself with people who was also struggling with the same things I was struggling, and seeing them get through it made me want to get through it. So at that point, I was like, this is nice. I know who I am now. I came to terms with the fact that I am by gender. I feel comfortable with having identifying with my body being the sex of a male, and I'm comfortable with being my gender being both male and female, a boy and a girl, because that's how I choose to identify, and that's how I see myself, and I don't care how other people see me. But you will show me the respect that I show myself, and nothing less than it. So that was very eye opening. And then before I knew it, people started following and looking up to me, and I was like, "Whoa! I don't know when I earned this. I don't know what I did. I'm just as fucked up as the next person. I'm just able to handle it better. And I got people and I have connections and networks who are there to help me with it. And I said, all right, if these connections help me, let me connect them to other people. And I started sending my friends to Hunter's World. I started introducing them to Youth Connect. I always brag about these people who are literally changed my life. And I'm saying, yes, you can do this, or you can do this. And then next thing I know, I started to see myself as a leader because Hunter's World told me what a leader is and what a leader is not. And I'm like, I'm doing things that leaders should do, but am I a leader? Like, what makes me see a leader? I wanted that. At Hunter's World, they call it like the popcorn moment. I think it's a popcorn moment where it just pops in your head, and you just be like, oh, I'm that now. And I was waiting for my popcorn moment to hit me, and ironically, it hit me in college when I started out when I took over the LGBTQ club of my school, and during the first day, people started asking me all these different questions on how we do this, can we do this, can we do this, and I was like, oh, I'm a leader. Oh shit, okay. And I'm not gonna lie, I low key was scared. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to fail them now. But I started realizing, a leader is only a leader when they have a team to lead. And then so I was like, I'm not by myself. I have my team. I have my team. But I also can't rely on my team because there are some things that only me as a leader can do. But there are so many things that I can't do by myself. So finding that equal balance is still tricky for me because I also have like a very selfish tendency to take on all the work by myself because I feel so I should be doing all the work. I should be doing all this because I'm this. I took on this responsibility. They shouldn't have to do nothing. And I'm starting to like get out of that mindset of I'm not here to serve nobody. I am not a servant. I am a team player. And that's so tricky for me. But I'm working with it. I'm having fun with it. I'm trying to find the equal balance. I experienced a lot of things, and these things made me better. Even though some things I wish I didn't have to experience. That's life, and that's all I have to say.
We're gonna ask questions. You definitely don't have to answer any if you feel uncomfortable or you just generally don't want it out there. Um, since you're part of the LGBT, you came out in 8th grade. Was it scary coming out?
I came out to my mother when she was about to leave on a bus, and I cried in front of the bus. And then she got on a bus, and she said she'll handle it, and we'll talk more after when I got home from school. But she accepted me. She accepted me, and I love that. I went to school feeling confident as hell. But even if your family love and respect you, that doesn't mean other people will. And even after I came out, it wasn't sugar plums and roses. Honestly, I would describe it more as a soap opera. Like it was way more dramatized than I thought it would be. Like when I came out to my father, he said, "Oh, all right, you're still my child." That was that. But my mother started asking different questions like, "Was I molested? How do I came out about this? What made me realize this?" And other things like that. And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, you're bomb rushing your questions when I just came out to you like 2 days ago. Please slow down. Please slow down." And then all these different assumptions came about of it, and it was just a lot. But my sister gonna sit there and laugh and say that she already knew. I'm like, then again, she's bisexual herself, so she got that gaydar. She was probably just waiting for me to come out, but it was fun. I love my sister. She was my main reason for coming out because she showed me that I can love in the same sex and same gender is not weird at all because she herself had a lesbian girlfriend, and I wanted them to get married so badly, but life doesn't go as you want it always. But yeah,
Did your sister ever come out to your parents?
Oh, yes. I don't really remember when she came out because I just remember her dating in high school. That's really about it.
So I'm guessing during COVID, a lot of things did happen. Like, I think COVID was also the big break for LGBTQ. I mean, a lot of more people started learning more phrases like non-binary, gender fluid, and stuff like that. And do you think that it was a blessing but a curse for COVID when COVID happened and everything went downhill? Do you think there was also some like pluses to it?
Um, I want to say yes, but I'm always reluctant to say yes because with I never want to go through the level of suffering that I went through during COVID. And all honesty, I I managed to come out of it stronger than what I was simply because of the people around me and the fact that I knew I wasn't the only suffering and the fact that I kept telling myself there are people that is way off than me and going to do things that I can never do and at that time. But it's also the fact that even with that thought in my mind, the things that I'm going through right now, I can barely handle itself. So just finding ways to give me peace of mind, allow me to get through, and allow me to become better than who I am. And as a society, I can't really say that COVID made things better. If anything, it made I would describe it as worse than what we was because nowadays people there's no social interactions that happen nowadays, at least before COVID was. So there are some good things that came out of it, but it wasn't worth the suffering that people had to endure.
I honestly agree with that though, because I was struggling with gender identity in COVID time and in middle school and high school. And I had the same exact issue where everybody was attacking me because they couldn't understand, but my parents were very accepting as well. So I get like where you're coming from, and I feel like for the LGBTQ community, we should have way more, things like way more resources and groups and stuff. But a lot of people just frown on it or are too scared to implement it. Would you want to do something like to help LGBTQ? I know you stated you're part of something with your college, but would you want to do more for the LGBT?
I always want to. I always want to do more because honestly, it's never ever enough because the at least beside within our country, things that we thought we was protected with is now is now just is like now completely being undone. And now I live every day like my rights will be taken away by the slightest politician wanting to sit here and say, "Oh, I don't like this. I'm gonna pass a bill to get rid of this." Especially with the abortion laws going on. If what scares me is the fact that these politicians are arguably debating a human right that goes against the Constitution, and nobody is truly nobody's taking drastic enough measures, at least for me, to stop it. And it's like not back in the day when people really did complete riots, went to jail, did criminal type acts that put fear into these politicians because now everybody's too scared of the consequences and they got us such in a mindset that nobody will stand up with us if we make a stand. The unity that we have is non-existent, which is clearly shown after COVID. Because think about it, before COVID happened, none of these things was much of an issue. But now, since COVID is no longer happening, and that people don't have the same level of connections that they once had, they like, oh, let's do this now. Why they're weak, and they don't think that other people will stand up if they make a stand. At least that's my opinion.
No, genuinely you got a fair point. And I do agree with that. A lot of people are very afraid to open up and stand for their own rights. And a lot of people are still closeted because they're too scared to come out. Especially kids in like middle school and high school, like the start of freshman, sophomore year, they're very afraid to come out. And that's why I think, like, because I know some people were trying to start LGBTQ groups for middle schools, but they never got it legalized because of the government. They refuse to teach little kids about that. They think that we're poisoning kids' brains, but we're really not. What's your opinion on that?
My professional opinion or my personal opinion?
Both.
Bullshit. Fucking bullshit. That is bullshit. And what gets me angry is that someone from Hudson Pride told me that schools can make a preferred name preference inside their systems, and they just tell students that they are not allowed to do it because it's a hassle to them. And
Yep.
I heard that. I'm like, them making the school a safe place is a hassle, but they are so quick to sit here and make these claims like, oh yeah, we are accepting, we are open, we support all of this. I'm like, that is bullshit. And it's not just with schools; it is with colleges as well. Because I went to a Christian a Christian school, and they didn't allow me to have a LGBTQ club because it went against what they stand for as a school. And I'm like, hold up. Schools, this college is promoting that they're all of this, how they're opening, that they're accepting, and they support all their students. But yet, if it doesn't conform with their statements and their mission statement, they are allowed to do that. I'm like, okay, what is keeping other schools, private schools, public schools from making the same decision? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what told me this, and the state approved this school, and this was nothing I can do because it was state approved. So I'm like, okay, through his teeth, I'm paying all this money inside this school. That was a terrible decision. Then again,
Do
I
you think?
should do research, but at the time, they kept telling me that this school was such a good school. And I think what made it even worse is that they had the person who was my application advisor. She was new to the school herself, and she didn't find out about all this bullshit until the same year I did. The same year I joined was her first year as there as well, which is why I felt like they did that on purpose because hey, I was an LGBTQ student and a black student because majority of their students was from European descent, and I'm just like, okay, so y'all played both of us at the same time. The only difference is that she was able to leave the school and find different employment, whereas I had to stay because I already signed a contract with them with a student loan, and that greatly affected my grades. My GPA went from being a 3.8 to a point 4 to a point 4. I was a GP. I was a 3.8. I was a honor student before I went to that school. And then I get there and everything drops. And schools really fail to realize how much of the social part matters just as the education part. So that is my answer to your question.
Do you think that the only reason they did that is because you're a Catholic school? Because they were a Catholic school?
Honestly, I wanna say yes. I'm gonna say yes, and it's also mainly because I spoke to the dean himself, and it was the dean who told me all of these things. Because at that time, it was a tight, like a very tight knit school with only like a max of thousands, 2,000 students. Which when I heard that, I'm like, perfect. I get one on one treatment with these students. But when I get there, the amount of bullshit that students have been telling me, how they had issues with race and the LGBT, I was like, no, I can't be here. I can't be here. But like I said, it was already too late. I was already I think I was in 2 months into my second semester by then. I already was failing, and school is only a max of 5 to 6 months, and I was already failing in 2 months, and we already had midterms. At that point, there was no saving, so I ended up having to drop out.
Did dropping out affect you?
I yes, a severe depression because it was also like my mother isn't as supportive as she was. She only ever support me on when I make a smart decision, and when I make something that she doesn't like, she just criticizes. So when she found out I dropped out and she keeps saying that's what I get, I should have did more research. It's just like you heard of the saying never punch a horse while it's down?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was that. It was that. I was ready experiencing regret, disappointment. I was really like, oh my god, if I could sit there and let a school a school lie to me that I paid for, can I even trust my own judgment? But during the summer, I managed to get over it because I found out the school was shutting down, so I was so happy because even though I suffered, that school lost millions, and I'm so
Is
happy.
is it still down right now?
Yes, that school is shut down. That
Good,
school is
because
shut down.
it was horrible.
Yeah, until they sent me my student loan mail. Yeah,
Uh, Wait, they're still making you pay student loans even though they're shut down?
because they didn't shut down until the school year ended. So it
Mm.
shut down this semester. They are not open, but they still was able to finish the rest of that semester. Anything that happened with the students who had to graduate, whether their degrees would still be like would be worth it or not, I honestly did not care. All I was happy about was that school was shut down, and it felt like I had revenge. I had revenge because that school went down with me. Those teachers, those professors, those faculty who smiled in my face and told me all these believable things, all had to lose their jobs. Yes, does it sound like I'm a bitter bitch? Yes, yes, it do. Am I? Yes, very much so. I do. I said what I said, and I would say it to their face.
In the college you're in now, are they doing like the same things or are they way better?
Oh no, Hudson County or HCCC, it
Hmm.
their faculty and students and their clubs are so multi versatile. It's honestly amazing. And they was very quick to let me take over the LGBTQ club, mainly because it wasn't active for 2 years because they couldn't find a student who truly wanted to start it. But don't get me wrong, even with that, they still have like their own. I said their own like mini LGBTQ events. I know the North Hudson campus have their own faculty group called not Queer Eye. It was something with queer. I can't forget the second now, but they had things like that, and after hearing that, I'm like, okay, I love this school, which is why I'm so reluctant to leave the school. Not just because they're basically paying me to go there, but because it's everything that I wanted my school to have. Because I was honestly thinking about just transferring to NJCU because they have a dorm there, so I could just dorm there for until I get my bachelor's. And well, actually, no, not my bachelor's. I could get my PhD because it's a university. But I don't want to leave. I really just don't want to leave Hudson because I'm scared that if I go to NJCU, it'll be just like that other college I went to. So I would say it's a little bit of PTSD with a little mix of me not wanting to leave comfort.
How many events have you had with the gay program in HCCC with since you've been, I guess you could say, co-owner of it?
Oh no, I'm the president. I'm the
Oh, you're
president.
the president. Okay.
I'm the president. Um, we've officially had two events, which was our LGBTQ youth summit. We invited Hudson Pride to join. It was amazing. I loved it. Our second event we was just Wednesday. We had a queer game night. Those was our only two events, but then again, we only really started in late September, and our members are still getting used to each other. So this was our first time planning out events, but come November, we will be having so much more.
Are you able to say what more events you have planned?
Oh yes, we are having another youth summit. We always want to have a youth summit every single month. We will be having another game night. We will also be doing a sip and paint. We will also be inviting Hudson Pride Center to teach our members about more about the LGBTQ history. We are also inviting Hunters World to mentor us on some of the meetings that they have and things of that. And I also want to plan a good field trip to a gay museum or some type
What's
of
a
LGBTQ
gay?
museum in New York. But that's all still in the working.
What's a gay museum? I've never heard of that. That sounds awesome.
Uh, it's basically, I mean, it's any type of museum that just have a LGBTQ exhibit. Because most museums don't really have LGBTQ exhibits. But I mean, hey, if you could sit there and put a toilet and in the front or a bed and call it art, you could put some art things up there. You could put some art things up there.
Do you feel comfortable explaining some you okay, first before I even get into that, what's Hunter's World? Can you explain a little bit about what that is?
Gladly. Hunters World is a nonprofit organization that strives at is a team mentoring program where teams mentor other teams as a way to allow them to express their feelings and just to give them escape from the weight that society holds on the younger generation, and that teaches them like things of communication, trust, feelings, and how all these things play, and how these other things relate to us and how we can express them to the world. And I am one of their mentors. I'm a volunteer there. And for this month, our theme was trust. So we did group meetings and activities that relate to trust and what trust means to us, and how people can gain our trust and how people can lose our trust. And we do those type of activities. I truly, truly love it because Hunters Road really play a big part into who I am. And I always tell people to go and at least try it one time.
Can you explain like the whole concept of certain genders, non-binary, gender fluid, I believe you said by gender. Can you explain like what those are more or less?
Um, at least how gender fluid, bi gender, non-binary are all fall under the same category. Um, at least I can talk about mainly because I myself identify as gender fluid, and what gender fluid basically means, in my understanding of it, is that one flows between the ideas of being masculine and feminine, and can portray those identities either in a mix or sometimes as one. Like I could dress as a man, but still act like a female. At least that's what gender fluid means to me. Whereas bi gender is similar, but more of the sense of if they feel as though they are a boy that day, then they completely identify as a boy, or if they are a girl the next day, they are completely identified as a girl. Whereas with non binary, they don't really feel or identify or relate to either or type of ideas, but is able to like wear things as considered feminine clothes and feel comfortable in it, wear things considered as masculine clothes and feel comfortable in it, without feeling as though they have to conform to a title. I hope that was a good understanding. I mean, explanation.
It was. I do have a question though. Do you think that gender identity is something that a lot of people struggle with?
Yes, yes. It is always because people mix gender with sex, and and that is something that mass media and a lot of things, and that is very normalized because you know when you apply to a job application, they ask you what is your gender,
Hmm.
and they put male or female. But nowadays they have male, female, they, them, or just choose not to disclose. And whereas when you have like when you go to your doctor, they ask you what is your sex, and people get confused with that because they choose their gender identity over their sex. And the thing is, sex is your biological components, your X and Y chromosomes, what makes up your body, whereas gender is a social construct of what do you choose to identify. And most people don't have access to things that tells you that you don't have to be either or. And if you is want to be just one, then you can be just that one, but just different ways of expressing your gender. Like for me and my members, I have someone who identifies as a man. However, he wears men and female clothes. And I'm like, hey, how did you get like that? They said I always felt as though I had no problems because they themselves don't see that clothes has a gender, which is true. We can't apply gender, a social construct, to non physical things. You can't say that's a skirt that only woman is meant to wear just because it was that only women can meant to wear. I'm like, one, you can't say that because back in historical times, men wore skirts as well. So the idea of applying gender to things is just so messed up. And like for instance, I personally do not like gender reveal parties because that adds to the propaganda that your sex is your gender. So if you're born as a male, you're a male for the rest of your life. And that where that the gender hysteria comes in when those try to grow up. I'm like, I'm a man, but I don't feel like a man. Like, what is a man? And they keep trying to do all these things to present themselves as a man. They do all the stereotypical things like play sports, they work out, they do all these other things, but then they just like, I still don't feel like a man. This doesn't feel me. And I've seen people who went through this and now they're trying to embrace their feminine side because like we have icons now. We have people that's out here finding that sitting here explaining all these type of things. That's basically saying you don't have to be this. You can be something else. And now they're reaching they're reaching out, asking for help, saying, "Hey, how can I do this? Because I don't want to be this no more. But I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know where to start." And it's because that we of the LGBT community is now teaching people through social media, through advertising, through riots, through protests, through word mouth by mouth communication, which is why schools don't want to teach these kids because they are scared. They start teaching these kids will start learning themselves because nowadays the system only pushes people through. Because I see them myself. I see people back in high school. I saw people who really were still at a seventh grade level thinking in high school, and I'm like, how did you get here? And most people say, oh, that's a joke. They're stupid. They're stupid. I'm like, they're not stupid. The school system failed them, and because they failed them, they can't get to higher places in life. They are stuck where they are at, which is what the government wants us to be. They want us to be stuck where we are at, which is why schools like Hudson County and other community schools is basically paying these students to come to their school because they themselves are trying to make a difference.
Do you think that that's why? Do you believe that because of that, like the women's section and the men's section of clothes shouldn't be a thing? Because clothes don't, they really don't have a specific gender attached to them, just like items don't.
Yes, I know most people will sit there and say that no, no, we can't do that because what about panties? What about bras? I'm like, if y'all want to sit here and talk about undergarments, let's truly sit here and talk about undergarments because I know men who wear thongs, who wear panties on a daily basis, but you wouldn't know because nobody's looking at your undergarments unless they're out in the open. If they're out in the open, that's their personal preference and their problem to deal with. And when you start talking about the idea of bras is meant to help give women support and relieve the back pain of having breasts. And men have breasts. I don't know why people keep saying that men don't have breasts. Men have breasts. Yes, they do, and sometimes it's bigger than the females. And they should be wearing bras too, but they don't wear bras because they keep thinking that bras are made for women. They are for women. Bras are a woman thing. And I'm like, what about boxers? What about briefs? I know women who wear briefs, and I know women who wear boxers. They are meant for men. But when we see women wear them, we say, "Oh, that's cute." They're probably wearing their boyfriends. They keep trying like they play it. They think of it as a joke, or they connect it to a man, or they say they're trying to be a man. And it's when we start adding gender to clothes, when people start going to these type of styles to help them express their gender. Like for me, I wear things that society considers as a female clothes, so I come off presenting as a feminine nature because that is how society sees it. And me being gender fluid, if I want to express my femininity, I have no choice but to do that. I can't walk outside wearing sweatpants and a hoodie without someone thinking I'm a boy when I feel like a woman that day. But I don't let, but even then, I still don't let that bother me. Like for instance, I get my hair done. I get box braids a lot, which is considered a female thing. But I don't do that for them. I do that because I look good as hell with them, whether I'm presenting as a man or a woman. I look sexy. I look sexy. I turn heads above women and females, which is a very big ass confident boost. When you can turn the heads of both genders, what? It's crazy.
I agree with that. I mean, that's a good thing though. It definitely, I bet you, it makes you feel really good too, because a lot of LGBTQ people will look at them, whether you're female or male or you identify as something else, and they'll just judge you. They'll be like, "Oh, you look too feminine," or if you dress one day in sweats and a shirt, you dress too masculine. But for all genders, more or less, to look at you and be like, "Okay, they ate. Look at them. Like they look handsome, they look sexy, they look pretty, they look beautiful. Whatever they want to say, they compliment you." I bet you that makes you feel very rewarded, especially with stuff that you went through in the past.
Yes, it makes me feel seen. That's what it makes me feel seen. If I feel seen, I feel like the torture I had to go through to get to that point was worth it.
If someone was to bring up, how we brought up clothes, what if they wanted to bring up like products, like period products? Genuinely, I feel like yes, they are made for women, but people who identify as non-binary or gender fluid who have woman body parts, they should still be able to use them. They shouldn't be judged for using quote unquote woman products if they don't identify as a woman.
And when we talk about things like that, like birth care and menstrual products, we literally say it inside the name. It is a menstrual product, not a woman product, but a menstrual product. Because even those who get the gender, not the gender but the body reconstructing surgery, where they go from male to female or female to male, 9 times out of 10, the female to male can still go through their menstrual cycle, but now they have the body parts of a man. You can't sit there and say that it's for women now, because now it's for a menstrual cycle, which is of course commonly associated with the idea of females. However, but nowadays, as people is more going through the surgery and as gender becoming more of a topic that's up in the air for open debate, you can't keep trying to put a title on it to make your life easier, to avoid the burden of having you to do your research, for having you to pick up your phone, which have access to over thousands and thousands upon information, whether it's real or fake, to do your research.
But do you think that men who are assigned female at birth and stay a man and they choose that they're comfortable being male and they start attacking LGBTQ members, do you think that it may come from a place of them not being able to express themselves when they were younger? Because I know a lot of men, they're forced into sports, they're forced to be a player, they're forced to be very, toxic and masculine and not be around women. Like, don't cry, you can't show emotion, you can't try to wear makeup or heels or dresses or anything. Do you think that a lot of men who are toxic now and like hate on LGBT is because they don't understand the expression because they never had the experience?
Are we referring to cisgenders by any chance, or no?
Can you specify what cisgender is?
Those who identify with the sex they're born with.
Yes, we are identifying. We are talking about those people.
Okay. Um, I've I can list. I think it's three. One, it comes from a place of ignorance, where they don't know no better because that is what they was taught up growing up, and those ideals that they had from childhood is so deeply rooted into their subconscious that they themselves don't realize the harm they're doing. They think that they themselves are right and refuse to educate themselves. Two, it comes from, like you said, a plate of hate and jealousy because they don't understand why they, as a child, was forced into these positions. And when they see people like people of the LGBT community running free and about and being who they are, they wonder that's not fair. Why did I had to suffer? Why aren't you suffering with me? And four, it's there's no reason. Four, they just don't have a reason. They do it just for the fun of it. Because there are people. We also have to acknowledge that there are people out in this world who want to see people suffer. Who truly like the idea of seeing minorities suffer and stay low because they feel superior. They feel superior, a superiority complex, which can normally be associated with a God complex. Which is why we have politicians nowadays who are trying to sit here and control human bodies and human rights because they feel as though that they are gods. And we ourselves have to acknowledge that we put these people in this higher power. We all literally outnumber them, but they control us with fear. And controlling people with fear is truly a great tactic because 9 times out of 10, people who was abused as a child completely fear their parents, which is why they are scared to disobey their parents and authority in general.
Do you think that because a lot of people are scared, some people who may identify as like their sexuality is gay, lesbian, asexual, aromantic, whatever the case may be, do you think that maybe they're too afraid, they're too scared because of the government and because of the people they lived around to actually
Yeah,
come out? Because I know that a lot of LGBTQ members refuse that they are part of the LGBT. They can have a boyfriend for years and be gay, or they could be bi and have a girlfriend, or vice versa, whatever the case may be, have a significant other, and they will still deny being part of the LGBT and gradually make fun of people from the LGBT, calling them slurs and everything. Do you think that that comes from a place of hate or scared, like being afraid?
that is fair. Fair. And Hudson Pride also just told me this internalized homophobia because they are scared that they will have to suffer the same pain that we had to suffer. And secondly, because when they acknowledge it, they're everything that they know, everything that they grew up with, everybody that who's around them who keeps telling them stuff will completely shatter. When they come out that closet or when they are forced out their closet, people need to realize that when you out a person, you are shattering their world and everything that they know and how they interact with it. They have to restart from the ground up, which is not something that everybody can do. Which is why I feel as though within, even when you are dealing with someone who is down low and you force them to come out, what you're doing is completely upsetting, completely destroying their whole world. And if you, it's just, I'm just very against the idea of forcing somebody to come out because I know the implications that can happen. And I read the stories of the implications that can happen. And and there is tons of media representation of what can happen when you force a student to come out. Imagine the fear that you had that before you came out. You was able to work up the courage. But now these people didn't have what you had. They didn't have the resources that you had, or they didn't was able to find the confidence that you had. They have hate and they have protection. Their hate is their protection. As long as they have that, they can go about their day and their lives. So yes, don't get me wrong, they feel guilty because trust me, they feel guilty about the things they say. But that's their way of protection. So yes, is it wrong for them to hurt others in order to protect themselves? Yes, it is. But we also have to acknowledge We ourselves will protect our loved ones before we protect other people. So we can't judge them for wanting to protect themselves because we aren't as important as them, as we aren't as important as they consider themselves. I'm sorry. I love these type of questions.
No,
I
it's
feel like
okay. It's perfect. You're explaining yourself and explaining what you learned. That's important. Do you feel
yeah.
like internalized homophobia is in a lot of people, especially nowadays? Because I know that the phrases that we use now, pronouns she, her, they, them, he, him, zer, and I know there are others as well. Do you feel like now that people are finally talking about it more and acknowledging it, people continue to call it fake? Is that a form of internalized homophobia?
It's rejection. Wait, yeah. Yes, it is a form of internalized homophobia. Simply because now that it's becoming more open, more accepting, they're like it. They're testing. I consider like they're trying to test to see if it's truly safe. I feel like they believe if they keep fighting for it and put up a resistance, maybe two things will happen. Maybe the people will fight back hard enough where I could join their fight and join their side because now I know that there's tons of other people out in the world who's fighting just as hard as I'm fighting against them. Or two, they are fighting to still protect the world that they know because, like I said, fear. Fear is literally such a strong response that our body literally has a built-in system called fight or flight. And 9 times out of 10, people would choose to fight this rather than run away from it. Because it's more of the LGBT community doing more of the running than the fighting if you truly want to talk about it. Because we're basically fighting our own people, which is completely, which is funny as hell to me. Because like, how are we fighting? How are we fighting if we both the same shit? It's just that you just don't want to believe it. That's crazy. But that's how humans are. Is we are complicated creatures. We are very complicated. No one on this planet is normal. And if they are normal, they're good at hiding their shit. Or they're just a place of they come from a place of blessing, privilegedness, where they never had to question all their stuff. Which is like veterans would sit there and say they know people who came in. They're saying, "Oh yeah, I can kill people. I don't have a problem with this. I have the stomach for this." But when it comes down to it, they throw up, they pass out, and there are people who is constantly who is scared. Say, "I can't do this. I can't do this." But when they do it, they are confident that you would never even know that they were scared. Because until you are put into that position, you won't never truly know.
Do you feel like internalized homophobia also plays a part? Excuse me, a part in religious factors?
Yes, very much so. Because um, how I see it, most religious factors is out is outdated. Is outdated. A lot of them focuses on more of the thing of take Christianity for example. A lot of the things inside Christianity is not followed today. They pick and choose what they want to believe in and what they want to worship instead of worshiping the whole thing. Because I know people who've read the Bible and who reported to me that hey, the reason that they don't worship Christianity anymore because they read the Bible, they educated themselves on the Bible, and they see these people who worship this God, who follow these teachings, but yet they break so many other rules, but follow this one particular rule, and it doesn't make any sense to them. Like the idea of when people believe in the Bible, it said it is wrong for a man to lay with a child. And no, is it? Yeah, it was wrong for a man to lay with a child. Was it wrong for a man to lay with boy? I can't remember the verse, but when that verse came out and Christians use it as a means to harm us, and then someone actually searched up the verse and read it word for word and said that this is what it says. how did you get to that interpretation?
I remember there's a thing about pedophiles in the Bible where they claim that anybody who, people who are pedophiles are subject to death, I believe it says in the Bible. And nowadays people are connecting that with gay people. But the LGBT was never part of the Bible. It was never really spoken of. It was kind of shunned upon in the past. From what we know, from what our parents grew up with and our grandparents, their stories, everybody kept quiet about being gay. They knew about it, but they stood quiet about it. They didn't care. They would do their little talkings, but it was not like, hey, he's gay, she's gay, beat them up. Maybe once, but they're not like gonna constantly attack. It was like they kept it a secret. If you had a gay cousin, they would keep it a secret. But in the Bible and a lot of Christians and Catholics, they form up this thing that pedophiles who touch children are gay. It's a gay thing, which is not true at all. Because the only thing that I think really leads to gay is in some churches, priests, they're gay, and they wash away their sins by gradually touching children, whether it's male or female. Or if they prefer any other gender, other genders, but usually it's males. But then they wash away their sins by praying to God. Does that make any sense to you?
Um, all right. First, to go back to what you said earlier about associating pedophilia with gays. That is
Yeah.
because my mother asked me the question, was I touched by a man before? Which how I know, which should have been a red flag for me. Now that I think about it, the fact that she asked me that question, that should have been a red flag. That should have been a red flag. But going back to it, that because back in the day, priests was known for pedophilia. Many priests were known for pedophilia, which is why we got the little joke that, oh, they're priests, be careful, keep your kids away, they might touch them. That how common it was. And because 9 times out of 10 those priests were touching both men and I said boys and girls. I'm saying men like they was adults. Boys and girls, they over time they use that as a means to subjugate LGBTQ people. And not only that, we also have to realize that Christianity, which is the dominant religion inside our country, took a lot, is because LGBT they made it seen as unorthodox. After the Catholics basically took over this country and made Christianity the dominant religion, they used a lot of things that was common for us. That was common, like men sleeping with women sleeping with women, and use it to subjugate and control their society by saying, hey, since you believe inside this God says you can't do that or you're gonna go to hell. And it's like, oh no, bam. They use it to eliminate certain habits and certain things to further spread the idea for this further spread their religion across the thing, because a lot of people keep fearing these certain things, like Easter is known as it's something that's associated with Jesus. However, not Orthodox Easter. Wait, is it Orthodox or unorthodox? I'm sorry, I get very confused. Religion is just is like Christianity really fucked up a lot of religions in my head and made me scared of religion in all honesty, because the power it truly holds. But before Jesus came, pagans worship the Mother Earth, Gaia. It was for Gaia. It's about spreading love and peace. And yes, was it sexual? Yes, but that was their religion. And Christianity said, no, that's bad. So we're gonna say you do that, so you go to hell. And they did this enough times where in current day people truly sit here and believe these and don't question it. They don't, even when like the idea of women staying inside the house and being housewives, that was supported by Christianity. But of course, nobody want to talk about that. But they want to sit here and talk about all the things that Christianity did to harm other people, and how, because even Christians themselves, God bless. I can't say God bless their soul, but bless their soul. They don't understand the harm that they're doing. Like, yes, I know y'all coming from a good place. I know. But when you sit here and say, oh, I'll pray to God for you, or pray to God, or things like this, you don't understanding that you are spreading a religion that literally was made to hurt me. that has a history, a long history of hurting me that didn't change until the last 50 years. And yes, and the fact that you keep saying this, you are forcing your religion actively upon me. Because you're basically telling me if I believe in this guy, he'll save and protect me. But then I start worshiping him, and then out of nowhere, you start saying, "Oh, I can't do this now because I worship this." And that's why I don't like. That's why I don't really like Christians, and I try to stay avoid from Christians because they do more harm than they do good to me. In all honesty, and then to answer, I'm sorry, what was your last statement?
I said, what is your feeling on the whole thought about how Christianity and pedophiles are all tied into gays? Like, it's not even just Christianity; it's mostly Catholics and Christians, where they believe that because priests touched kids, and it was mostly men, because the priests were mostly hiding their sins by doing that and getting away with it, they tied it to LGBT. But being gay was never a part of the original Bible. What was your opinion on that? That's what I
Bullshit. Just another meme that they use to control the society that they spent so long building. That they spent so long building, and the fact that because when you think about if you really track the history of some of the people in power, these are dynasties that is like very very deeply rooted inside history, inside our country's history actually, and they are scared to lose the power and the foundation that's been keeping their families rich all these years. Of course, you have new companies that's out there that sees through the bullshit and like, oh hell no, at this point I'm not going to do this. But they themselves see that this is so deeply rooted inside society, and they see us, the people who is being controlled, and they're like, all right, they believe that they can't do nothing because we don't give them a reason to act. So they's like, you know what? Since I'm rich and I'm now a power person in power, I'm gonna just enjoy myself and protect myself and make sure I am not associated or connected to any of the bullshit that's going on. Which, in all honesty, I myself would do the same thing. If I was just as rich as Elon Musk, I would be like, yeah, no, no, because I'm not going to devote my time to trying to save people who came and save themselves. Because that's the point. That's where we at right now. We can't save ourselves because we're busy fighting ourselves.
do you think that fighting ourselves put a big block in LGBT, which is what's making a lot of people attack us more than they used to?
Yes, yes.
And why do you think that?
We have one group of kids who like playing with a red ball, right? However, the teacher at the time said, "Hey, if anybody play with that red ball, they will get in trouble." But now, let's say the teacher's not around. It's lunch. It's lunchtime. The red ball is out, and it's 43 minutes left, and it's 45 minutes left for lunch period. You have kids that say, "Hey, I don't really care about what the teacher said because we've been playing with the red ball all these other times and she never did nothing." But then you have other kids who scared of the consequences, so they choose not to play with the red ball. And instead say and tell the red kids, and I said the red kids, and the kids who play with the red ball, hey, you can't play with that red ball because you'll get in trouble. And that's bad. You can't do this because that's bad. You're being bad. And they do that because they're mad. They're mad that they can't play with the red ball because they'll get in trouble. But then you see these kids who don't care about getting in trouble play with the red ball, so they try to keep them from playing with the red ball. And that's where we at right now. And the whole point is it's a red ball. Why would y'all care about being? Where was I going with this? I'm sorry. I got too much into the red
No, it's
ball.
okay. I get what you mean. You're basically implying that people are so scared of the risk of sticking up for themselves that instead of sticking up for themselves and their community, they attack them.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's horrible. And I think the red ball was honestly a perfect example because you're right. If you're able to do it every other day, and then one day you're not able to, and you'll get in trouble, you'll get disciplined hard for no reason, when there's no like, reasonable excuse to do that, then take the risk. Do what you got to do. Because it's your livelihood that you're putting at stake. Would you rather be closeted again, be thrown back in, and having to deal with all the bullying yet again? Because you're going to get bullied regardless of what you do. People always are going to have their own opinions and attack you. But I think that we should rather fight for our rights, like we have been for years, especially people of color too, because I believe all of us in here are a person of color, whether they're Hispanic or Black or any other race. We're mixed, maybe. We're people of color. We've been fighting our rights for forever. I don't understand why they can't just be handed to us at this point. Why can't we? Why do we have to keep fighting for something that should be given to us like other people have? We shouldn't have to fight for something that should be allowed. Because if straight people can be with other straight people, if a man can be with a woman can be with a man, why can't a man be with a man or a woman be with a woman or a unidentified person who doesn't specifically have a gender yet, they don't know their gender identity, be with somebody else who's exactly like that, or be with a woman who knows who they are.
Because it took one person. Actually, I'm not even gonna say one person. A group. Actually, no, I'm gonna say one person, because that one person had enough charisma to sit there and spread that teaching and a fear to make it bad, to make it what's considered bad. Because the idea, the concept of good and evil is socially made. What we consider good today would be considered evil in the past. Then a woman of I'm gonna use woman. You guys have your own day that can pop in my head. Then a woman of today go back to like the 1800s and sit there and say, I'm not gonna be a housewife. She would be ostracized and bullied by the society, and not just by the men, but by other females as well. And that's crazy as hell to me. That we are literally taking these teachings from history that we know caused so much pain and suffering and still allowing to control us today. That's crazy.
I feel
But
like
like I
we are
said, it's
slowly
fair.
going I think we're
Um,
slowly going back to how it used to be because everybody's getting scared again. Everybody's too afraid to stand up for themselves and their families and their friends. I feel like we're slowly just going back into that state where woman has to be in the kitchen, men has to go to war, only female and male. Straight, that's it. If you're gay, you get hung. If anything else, you get hung. There's no switch. It feels like we're just going back in time instead of moving forward. And it's been centuries, so we genuinely should be way above where we are now. But because of the bickering and the fighting and nobody wanting to get along and accept each other's differences, it just takes a toll on everybody in the world.
there's no more in betweens.
Nope.
That's what
It's
we're taking away. We're taking away the in betweens that people was that we gave people the choice of being inside. That, oh yeah, I don't have to conform to this. I can just stay in between and let the people who are fighting on the other side go. Let them go. We're taking that away. We are now saying, nah, you can't do this. You got to pick a side. You have to pick a side. And honestly, I hate the fact that we have to do this to these people, but it's also the fact that you no longer have the comfort to just sit idly. You don't have that comfort no more. You have to stand up and be an adult and pick a side. And if you don't pick a side, somebody will. And if they will, you are now a sheep. You're a sheep. That's what you are now. You're a sheep. You know that you lost all free will that you thought you had. You no longer have, because you gave it up because you yourself could not pick a side, and you let someone put a title upon you, and you chose to live with that title out of fear.
and that title is gonna tear everybody and everything down again.
Yes.
Do you have anything else you would like to say to anyone?
Um.
Or any questions, Vasquez? Do you have any?
Any questions on that? I guess something I will say right now is, if you are listening to this podcast and you yourself is still choosing not to do your research, still choosing to sit idly by and wait for someone to sit there and give you a title, or sitting inside fear over the consequences of the action that it would take for you to be yourself and for you to stand up for yourself, then you yourself will be used, you will be considered a sheep, and they will use you to harm, or they will use you to protect. And nine times out of 10, it's not the latter. It will always be the first option. So again, if you sit here and choose to do this, do not be surprised by the consequences that your actions will hold. Because the idea that your vote don't matter is complete bullshit and propaganda.
If my thing is, if you can vote for who's going to be the next president, you can vote for everybody's right.
Yes.
Because rights is way more important than who's president and who's not, realistically. If you want to shout out any programs or anything, your socials, you can if you'd like.
Um, Follow me. I guess if you would like to talk more with me about it, because I don't know. I feel like I was pretty smart with my answers. Um, Follow me on Insta at starry_skies. That's STARY_SKIZS. I also like y'all to recommend following Hudson Pride Center. It's literally Hudson Pride Center on Instagram, and Hunter's World, which is literally Hunter's World on Instagram as well. And that's it.
All right. Have an amazing night.
Bye bye.